Hello, Perth. It's nice to be home. How you doing? You all right? Yes. Good. Any chuchters in tonight? Give us a cheer. Yes. Oh, it's going to be some crack tonight, is it? No, bloody hell. You can spot the want-to-be chuchters, don't you? The ones that are trying to blend in, the dead hip and trendy folk here. They're the ones that went out today and bought a brand new check shirt. And I was watching you backstage. You can always spot farmers trying to find their seats. All you could hear folk is going, "Oh, Christ, Gene, we're up the wrong drill. Back up, Gene, back up. We're up the wrong bloody drill." Any actual farmers in here tonight? Oh, a few. I know, I'm getting the vibe. I'm getting it. There's a weird smell of silage and Old Spice, isn't there? The last time I saw so many farmers at a gig was at the Highland Show. I did a wee thing at the Highland Show. And if you don't know what it's like at the Highland Show, for any dead, hip and trendy folk in tonight, it's like the annual 4-day mating season for the chuchter, you know. It's the only weekend of the year where the Edinburgh lap dancers are asked to make out VAT receipts. And it's nice tonight, I can speak my broad Perthshire accent. You know, I don't have to speak all posh and clear. It's just going to be lovely. Because I did a gig in London once, right? And I was really worried about it. And I went down, I did 10 minutes in the first half, and I wasn't getting much of a response. And the woman says, "Oh, Jamie, you're frightfully funny. I'm sure you are funny, but unfortunately nobody can understand a bloody word you're saying. And they certainly don't know what a yower and neep is." Would it be possible to think of a Scotch man who has a clear and distinct voice and maybe copy him, use him as an example, yeah? And the only guy I could think of that does that really well was a chap called John Anderson, who some of you will remember was the referee in the game show Gladiators in the early 90s. So I came bounding on stage at the second half saying, "Audience, are you ready?" And then randomly, on the way home, I thought to myself, if John Anderson was ever in a threesome, would he be like, "Margaret, you will go on my first whistle"? "Sheila, you will go on my second whistle." And then I thought, has anyone actually ever been in a threesome with two women called Margaret and Sheila? I was that much of a chuchter that my childhood Scalextric set was just a single track road with passing places. So. But this is all real, you know. I'm not making any of this up. I'm a farmer. I'm born and brought up in the family farm. Actually, but you know, because folk, when I did my first gig, folk are like, "Oh, Jimmy, you're really a farmer?" And I'm like, "No, I'm actually an accountant from Morningside." But you know, because if I was to lie about a profession, to make myself a bit more exotic and interesting, you know, I wouldn't pick farming. You know, I wouldn't lie about, you wouldn't lie about that. You don't hear folks say, "Have you seen Scarlett Johansson, Davy?" "Aye, Bob, I think she's away banging the combine driver." I mean, you just don't hear that, you know. So I was born and raised in the family farm, not far from here. And the thing is, I didn't tell folk in Perthshire I was doing comedy for about 5 years, because, you know, until you get good at it, you don't want to die in your arse in front of your home crowd, you know. It's like, you know, when you're a vet, you know, you go 5 years from vet school. Well, the first thing you do not do is come home to your local practice, you know, and accidentally kill your neighbour's prize bull, you know. You know, you go down to England and learn from your mistakes down there and come back a much better vet, you know. Actually, I've got our local vets, Blairgowrie vets, are in tonight, are they? Yes, very good. Makes a difference you paying 60 quid for me just to appear, eh? So I get the guy for the local fuel station up delivering red diesel one day, because, you know, that Passat of mine just guzzles it up, you know, so... And he's a right Perthshire guy, you know, for Blairgowrie, right Perthshire accent kind of guy. And he's filling up the tank, and I come round the corner of the steading, and he's looking at me, he says, "Oh, Christ, you're some boy, like. You're some bloody boy, like, Ken? Christ, you're some boy, like. Laugh! Christ, what a laugh you are." Now, I don't know, as you know what it's like in Perthshire, some boy describes a whole range of character traits, you know. Like from a petty thief to a serial killer. I'm sure during the 1930s there was folk going about in Perth going, aye, that Hitler's some boy, is he no? Aye, to be fair, Davey, he's all right actually, but see, we're drinking him, he can be a bit of a dick. Anyway, so he's filling up the tank. He says, "You're some boy. God, I never knew it was you." He says, "Margaret had the laptop out last Saturday there, and she's got this sketch on the bloody laptop, like off the Facebook, and it's a boy with a farmer with a bomb and that. And I'm looking at it, and I said to Margaret, that's got to be the boy for up at Capeth. He says, there's no way there could be two buggers look like that, he says." And I didn't even tell farmers I was doing a stand-up comedy because I feel guilty that I'm not 24/7 farming now, you know. But this is good diversification and it's a lot more fun. And I did a speech at the NFU dinner in Glasgow. And what happens, there's about 500 farmers leave their wives for the weekend and they come down, they've got a half-hour meeting and then it's just a bevy up, you know. And there's a meal at night, okay? And there's about 500 farmers sitting down tables, but they don't mix them up, you see. They don't mingle the farmers. They have them sitting in their areas. So like the Murrayshire table's sitting right round there underneath the blazing lights, you know, to make them feel at home. And they've got the guys from Aberdeenshire and Ayrshire away in the damp corners at the back, you know, putting the sprinkler system on now and again to make them feel right at home. Because I'm a bit nervous about doing this speech in front of all my fellow farmers, you know. Until I went up to the Aberdeenshire table, and this guy comes up and he says, "Aye, Jim, aye, Jim, aye, we just love your videos, like, you can. Oh, see, like, if I'm having a bad day on the fair, I'm like, if there's like a deed coup, or like a Yowa prolapse, or a puncture on the jetter, or something like that, we just put your videos on at dinner time, and we just piss ourselves, like, you can." The thing is, Jim, I've got a son who works as a jet engineer in Houston in America, servicing airplanes, and he shares all these videos with his American pals, and they just totally get it as well, like, so you're international, like, you can. Now, so that was great. So what I really should have been thinking was, that's nice, that guy's taking time to give me a lovely compliment. I'm going to keep going with my comedy, it's all good. But really, ladies and gentlemen of Perth, what I was actually thinking was, my goodness, there's a guy that speaks like him and he's servicing airplanes in America, you know. Could you imagine that during the space program in the late 60s? Houston, we have a problem. Aye, hello, Fitzgerald, hello? 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 It's Willie here in the workshop, is that Apollo 13, is that? Aye, try channel 2, Jim, try channel, I'm not picking up very well. Fits that new, fits that. Oh, you've an explosion on the Saturn V rocket. Oh, Oh, they're bad for that. Well, don't worry, Jim, because I ken where there is one breaking for spares. I think it's a 17mm shifter we need. I'll get Dave, we'll get the van, we'll get a peace bug, and we'll meet you in the moon's orbit about the back of dinner time, like, you can. So let's take a minute to talk about that funny thing that folk in the Northeast have, or old men have down here, you know, because it's made my videos, I get a lot of comments about that, you know, and it's a weird thing, because women don't do it. And young men don't do it. I mean, I'm only 41. I haven't started doing it yet, but I think by the time I get to my late 40s, I'll subconsciously start doing that, you know. It's a weird thing. And, like, does it infect you? You know, like, you know how the royal family spend a whole 2 months in Royal Deeside in Aberdeenshire in the summer? I think Prince Charles is like, "Hello, tulips." Hi. You know, yeah. It's a weird thing. But it's definitely more a Northeast thing. And I saw a funny thing when I was up in Aberdeen. I was a student in Aberdeen for 4 years, many years ago, a 2-year course. And we used to go to karaoke now and again at a pub called the Egg and Dart in Anderson Drive. Okay, we go there now and again. And every night we were there was this kind of right old Aberdonian guy, late 50s, heartbroken. Wife had left him. He was gutted. You know, he was just a mess. He was a beautiful singer, but right Aberdonian. You know, he had a house made of butteries. You know, and big stot of a chap. You know, but he was a beautiful singer. and he'd guzzle a few pints every night and get up and sing the same song. And it was Should Have Known Better by Jim Diamond. And he'd build up to the chorus and he'd go, can you forgive me? I should have known better. I should have known better. You know, just beautiful, beautiful. Anyone Capeth here tonight? Anyone from Spitalfield? Fight! That's a very local joke, so... Sorry, for anyone outside Perthshire, if you don't know where Capeth is, it's near Murphley. From Perth, it's about 26, 27 years behind, so it's that old-fashioned. We had a bit of road rage last week in Capeth. I heard someone shout, penny farthing wanker! Cyclists, you know. At the local petrol station, pump number 4 serves coal. That's how backward it is. Not much goes on there at all. And because I've gigged a lot of Glasgow comics, you know, talk about gang violence and living in high-rises and growing up in gangs and taking drugs and stealing cars. That never happens where I come from. Although last week someone chucked a brick through my window with a bit of paper wrapped around it. It said, for the best deals in double glazing, call Willie. But I shouldn't joke too much, but I did actually have a death recently in the village. Because I don't know what it's like with you, fellow villagers, but the phone in the phone box was never getting used that much. So we took it out and we got lottery funding and we put a defibrillator in the phone box. You know that thing for starting your heart, you know, or your car, you know that? You know, so if you are in Capeth and feel a heart attack coming on, you know, get to the phone box, you know. Unfortunately, nobody told old Bob last week when he came out the pub and tried to phone home for a taxi. It was... bloody hellish way to go, actually. Apparently his last ever words were, is it possible to reverse the charges, please? So, anyone got married this year? Natural enthusiasm. You can't... and was the groom blackened? Yes. For those hip and trendy folk that don't know what a blackening is, basically, when a groom's getting married, usually about 2 or 3 weeks before his big day, his so-called mates, who have been doing 24-hour surveillance on the farm for the last week, you know, hiding in the hay shed, have been going like that. The rabbit is in the hole. Repeat, the rabbit is in the hole. When the time's right, usually when he's having his tea with his mum and dad, they'll burst into the kitchen, drag him out into the courtyard, strip him bollock naked, usually again in front of his mum and dad, immerse him in oil and treacle, hence the term blackening. Then they'll tie him up at like a very public place, like a roundabout, and then they'll all fuck off to the pub. It's a right laugh, you know. But to the untrained eye, it must look terrible. And I've got a cousin who's from Elgin, but he works in London, but he's a farmer's son from Elgin, works in London, and he's getting married next year. But the best man's still for Elgin. And he just phoned me up last day and he says, oh, we'll just get the lads, get a van, and we'll blacken a cunt down in London. No, don't do that. Don't do that. We now go live to Tower Bridge. There's some sort of dirty protest. So the farmers, how they cope with the harvest this year, it's been a bit catchy, the weather, isn't it? Because we're obsessed with the weather, aren't we? You know, absolutely obsessed with the weather, because we live by that, you know. And we've always got different views on the weather. I feel for Sean Batty. I feel sorry for that man. Thank God he can't hear the barrage of abuse that must come through from rural living rooms back to the TV studio in Glasgow. Honestly, because mind last year with the drought. Mind the drought last year. Mind when it never rained for 6 days. Mind the drought, you know. Mind when it gets really hot. Oh God, it's so hot, so fucking hot. Oh, it's so hot. Mind of that, you know. And there would be Sean Batty getting the Met Office weather forecast on a Sunday night and no sign of rain. We're all burning up like hell here on the East Coast, and he'd get the forecasting. Oh God, right, have to go out. Hey farmers, sorry farmers, I'm afraid there's no rain for you this week. 28 degrees up in the Murray Coast, 20 degrees in the Angus Coast, even 15 over in Ayrshire there. Sorry. And all we hear was, bloody hell, Sean, get it sorted out, man! Come on! But farmers, we don't see a lot of exotic, beautiful women So see if it's BBC One Scotland with Judith Ralston looking amazing with a leopard skin suit and the push-up bra saying, sorry farmers, no rain for you this week, it's going to be very hot, 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 hot. All you hear is, aye, didn't you worry yourself about that, Judith? That's it. You're all right with me, hen, don't worry about that. There could be a plague of locusts coming over. And if Judith Ralston says it, it's fine by me. So, because, and I guess it's that thing of just being brought up in the hills. We are a bit naive, and we do look upon life differently, you know. And when I went doing that gig in London many years ago, I was really worried because all my life growing up in the farm, I was hearing about the crime in the London, a lot of crime in the London, and there was no room in the jails for the juveniles, you know, the naughty teenagers. So they were just tagging them, okay? They were just tagging them. So I'm listening about this. Now, it was the end of May, and we just finished calving season. So, and by the way, I hope the non-farming people are getting education and fun here tonight, you know. This is a bit like if the Crankies presented Landward. You know, this is what this is. You know. So, if a calf's newly born, what we put a yellow tag in its ear with an individual number in each ear. Usually the same number, sometimes different. But so sometimes when that beast's a bit older, on a summer's night, that beast will be rubbing its head against a barbed wire fence, and it'll accidentally rip that tag clean out, and it'll leave a big hole there in its ear, you see, big gaping hole. But anyway, that's by the by. So anyway, I'm sitting in the tube in London, right, a bit apprehensive about going to this gig and really worried about the crime. And I'm in the tube, and I don't know if I've ever been in the tube in London, but it's quite frightening for a boy from Blairgowrie, because there's no one. You know how even you get the bus to Blair, strangers will acknowledge each other? There's none of that in London. You know, I was just so tempted to go, all right, just to someone. You know, none of that going on. I bet the tube drivers don't even wave to each other as they pass, you know. I bet they don't do the farmer's wave, you know. Hey, Smiley, hey! You know, I bet the tube drivers now got two Michelin men strapped to the side and a weight box in the front of this tube, you know. Anyway, so I'm sitting in this tube and it's packed, and there's this dodgy young guy, about 19, across from me, you know, tattoos all the way up his arm and a hoodie, and I don't mean a crow. And I'd never seen this in my life before. He had what can only be described as a washer. Is a 17mm washer in the lobe of his ear there, a massive big hole. And I'm thinking, fucking hell, he's missing his tag as well. But as I say, so it's a bit naive, but I wouldn't swap my upbringing on a farm for anything. I think it made me the man I am today, honestly. And I'm so glad that back in the late 70s and in the early 80s, that it was still a lot of manual labour on the farm, you know, lifting stones, lifting bags of tatties, lifting bales of hay. So, you know, it built you well, you know, because even the manual labour, that's all done away with now. Even today's modern farm kids look a bit peely-wally and pasty. I'm glad I missed all that, because you see this arm here? See that arm there? See that arm there? I think I would have got an arm like that playing Fortnite on Xbox, you know. Funnily enough, this arm's not so big. I can't think why. And my dad used to love it when we got snowed in. He used to love it when we got snowed in, couldn't go to school because he had 3 extra labour units for the whole day. In fact, he bought an ice machine. You know, we were snowed in till June, you know. And mysteriously, every week before the Highland show, I always had a grandparent pass away, so we'd get off for the funeral, you know. That's why I had to leave at the end of 4th year. I ran out of grandparents. So but it was great. We're always encouraged into farming. Do you think other professions do that, encourage their children to follow their footsteps? For example, see down at the Nine Wells Hospital, for example, I think there's the big heart surgeon getting ready for the big 12-hour heart bypass. You know, this is the big one today, you know, getting all scrubbed up there at the sink, getting iodine on, you know, gloves on, apron on, mask on. There's the patient in the bed getting sedated there, getting ready to be put under. And beside the surgeon, there's a wee 10-year-old boy looking fair excited with himself, getting his own little mask on, getting his own little apron on, with his own little Fisher-Price set of scalpels laid out like that, you know. The patient's looking a bit puzzled, and the guy's like, who's this? Is this another patient? And the doctor's like, no, Christ, no, this is my son Willie. Aye, it's in service today, so he'll be stitching you up. But as I say, farming's great for inspiring me to do comedy, and a lot of these folk I meet in real life are characters that I've met and grew up with, and they inspire me to perform these characters on stage and inspire me to do comedy. So it's always great. Perth especially, there's so many different characters. And other, like Fife or the Lothians or other places like this, Aberdeenshire, do you ever get a guy in a van just going around trying to sell you stuff or buy stuff off you? And there's a guy over at Bank Foot, and we'll just call him Willie, because, well, that's his name. But but for years he was looking for a set of 16.9 tractor tyres, and any time he was up at the farm, because he would help me out now and again, he would just say in his Perthshire accent, he says, "Aye, Jim, you don't care a bloody set of 16.9s, do you?" And he just loved raking about a bed of nettles, you know, on a Sunday, go to farm sales, buy all the rubbish at the barn door, you know. But you see, the thing is, he had no luck getting these tyres, and the great thing that happened in Capeth was that the internet arrived 5 years ago, you know, thank God, which was handy because the pigeon had died. So it was fantastic. So Google opened up the world to us, and you can get anything off Google now, you know. But being a bit of a chuchter, I'm still a bit naive, you know. So you have to watch what you type in, because when you type in grinder 9-inch, you know. Good to see you again, mate, all right? So I says, "Willie, look, just come in and Google these tyres." And he sat down as if he was speaking to the computer. He says, "Aye, how's it going? You don't count as a bloody set of 16.9s, do you?" Yeah. Because and then last year I got an Alexa for the kitchen. I don't mean an Eastern European cleaner. I mean that thing, you know. "Alexa, what's the weather doing?" Pissing down. And I said to Willie, just ask Alexa there. She'll soon get a pair of tyres for you." And he's like, "No way." Now, the thing is, Willie didn't like modern technology at all, because he got into trouble a few years ago. He got into trouble. He was sending dick pics to girls, pictures of his Willie to girls. I should point out, not with a mobile phone, by the way, just taking the spool to boots and getting it developed. Posting it to the girl himself. But he didn't. He read somewhere his Alexas are getting bugged. He says, "No, I'm no speaking. I wouldn't have one of them in my house. Like, you know the Russians and the Chinese are listening in on you all the time. I read somewhere that, Ken, when you're in your piece, like, the Russians are listening in on you, like, you can. I wouldn't have one of them in my house for love nor money." And I thought, well, fair enough. Maybe Boris Johnson's bodyguard or MI6, they've bugged that. But I don't think rural Perthshire's high in the Kremlin's hit list, you know. I don't think there's a guy working 2 dungeons down underground at the Kremlin, and his boss in the KGB bursts in one day and he says, "Well, Sergey, what's going on in rural Perthshire?" "I don't know, boss, but something about a puncture on the dung spreader." You know, I don't think he's going to... But he's still never found his tyres yet. We were at McDonald's there last week, and he was helping me out, so I gave him his tea before he went away home. So he's sitting in the passenger seat, I'm in the driver's seat, and we got a couple of Big Macs and chips and all the rest of it, a couple of McFlurries. And you know when you speak to the box, you put the order in. When we've got the order in, the woman says, "Anything else?" And he just leaned over and he says, "Aye, you didn't come here as a bloody set of 16.9s, do you?" And then, is there anyone for Elith here? Hey! How's the beavers getting on in Elith? Can't he move in Elith for beavers, man? For those that don't know, some idiot a couple of years ago introduced a couple of beavers back into Elith. You know, I don't mean like at a house party or something, you know. "Hey, who's that new guy?" "Hey, that's Billy the Beaver. He's from Canada. And his wife, Jean. Apparently he's into dam building, you know." And these beavers up the back of Elith, this thing is like the Hoover Dam they've built up the back of that bloody thing, you know. It's massive. They've been going all the farm sales and buying all the pallets and the railway sleepers and the screw fix for a nail gun. You can kiss goodbye to your Strathmore mineral water, because there's none going into Strathmore. The beavers are swimming and shitting in it, you know. And honestly, as from the summer, beavers are protected. You can't whack a beaver now in Perthshire, right? So then I'm thinking, maybe these kind of eccentric chaps that want to bring back wolves and lynx and bears back to rural Scotland have a point, because they'll be natural predators for the rabbits and the beavers and the otters and all that kind of stuff, and the deer. And they do have a point, because any 17-year-old boy will tell you, if you use lynx, you'll not see a beaver for fucking months. And then there's folk, and this is a bit controversial, but it's very interesting. There's folk ask me, oh, Jim, what do you think about the vegans? And I'm like, honestly, seriously, I'll lay this down right now. I have no issue with vegans. I have no beef with them. Honestly. Seriously, I'm not worried. Do you know what? The reason I'm not bothered what folk want to eat is that every day in the world, there's 220,000 new babies being born all around the world. That's 220,000 new babies that are potential customers for Scottish farmers to feed them, okay? And some of them are American, so you count them as two, you know? And all right, maybe the cows do fart now and again, you know, and they're getting the blame for global warming now, aren't they, all the cows? It's only them. Like they're the only things that have been invented with the Industrial Revolution, you know? But I would say to the general public, well, would you rather have the cows doing the farting for you in an open-air field, miles from anyone, or do you really want to be at a house party with 50 vegans half an hour after a 3-bean casserole? You know, think about it, you know? Yeah, go farmers! Oh, I'm back in the gym. We go on about all the produce. We sell all the good stuff abroad, but yet we've got inner city problems. Like, you know, we sell that whiskey abroad, yet there's a big alcohol problem with cheap booze in our cities. You know, and I think as farmers and producers, we should self-regulate ourselves and become more responsible, and maybe take a leaf out of the tobacco industry's book. Because, you know, when you buy a packet of fags nowadays, you know, there's a picture of a black lung or something on the ciggy packet to deter you from buying the fags. You know, maybe in a bottle of vodka, there should be a picture of a really ugly person with the warning tagline, if you neck this, you'll wake up next to that. But I would call upon the National Farmers Union to tell the public that please support our hill farmers, not for their sake, but for your own sake, because you have to keep the hill farmers in the hills, because if they... You can't put these buggers in the public sector. You can't... I mean, I've got a lot of friends that a farm up in Glenshee and all that. I mean, old Davey there, he knows how to skin a calf in 10 minutes and DB the bogey tyre, but you can't, if there's no industry, you can't have him retrained in selling shirts in River Island, can you? What do you think, sir? Aye, well, it's no bad, like, eh? It's maybe needing to in a bow hair, like, Ken? You know, you can't. And then there's all these industries that rely on the farmers for their own survival. What are they going to do if farming goes tits up? You know, like the Douglas Bray, that's the local knackery, by the way. For those that don't know, that's the wee red lorry you see going about picking up all the dead ewes and cows at lambing time, you know. And what are they going to do if there's no real dead sheep, you know? Are they going to have to start doing real funerals? Aye, hello, is that Douglas Bray? Uh-huh. I'm afraid my granny's just passed away. Oh, well, I'm afraid the lorry's broken down again. Just... leave her in a pallet, we'll be on Thursday. Oh, and mind her passport, you know. And what about the auctioneering trade? What happens if there's no sheep and cattle to sell? What are we going to do with that fine skill set and all these great people? You know, for example, I would get the auctioneer into my farm every 2 weeks in the winter time to grade out the fat lambs. So, again, education and fun. So, what would happen, we'd get all the lambs off the turnips, the fattening lambs, and we'd get them up a long race there, a long line. And the auctioneer, who gets really into it, it's quite erotic, actually, the enthusiasm he has for it. And he basically gropes the back of the lamb there, grabbing its tail and its bum and its back, you see. And if he can feel its backbone there, the lamb's too skinny. The lamb's far too skinny and needs to go back for more feeding. But if it's a good podgy lamb, oh, there's a good... There, and he gets right into it. There's a good fat lamb. There's a good fat lamb. You know, and he sprays the back of the head of the lamb there. And so when they're going up the race, we shed out all the ones with the red marks, because he sprays a red mark in the back of the head. All the red ones go to the abattoir, you see. Now, what can we do with that skill set, you see? So I had a theory. Old Mrs. McGinty next door, she's been going to Weight Watchers for a long time. Many years now. And she's not making anything of it. She's just... Honestly. She says, James, they're awfully good with me. They're great. Elsie, just £0.5 a year's fine. You're just great. And if you're ever passing Elsie, just come in, get weighed. Just come through that door, preferably sideways. But just come in. There, Elsie. Bugger that. Get them all. Get the auctioneer down to Fat Club at Dunkeld on a Tuesday night. Get them up the race. Get them up the race there. Oh, there's a podgy. There's a podgy. Shh, spray away. Shh. Spray away there. So when they're doing their shopping in Perth on a Friday and away into Tower Bakery, here, redhead, fuck off! You know, that'll sort a obesity crisis. We've got a lot of farming programmes now that show farming how it is. Real farming programmes like This Farming Life has been a great success. And The Mart, oh my God, do you ever watch The Mart? What a cliffhanger that is. Davy's lost the keys for the digger. Tune in next week. No spoilers, please. You know, I haven't watched it yet. No spoilers. Don't tell me. You know. And then this Lambing Live, of course, is a big success. Lambing Live, you know, it's like a game show. Lambing Live! You know, they couldn't have Lambing Live at my farm. It called Lambing. It was live 5 minutes ago, but now it's dead. But then there's all these other shows that polish up farming, make it look amazing. You know, like Shaun the Sheep. You never see his head stuck in a Rylock fence, do you? Yeah. And then there's Countryfile. Now, I used to have a real go at Countryfile, actually, but I was actually on it a month ago. Now I think it's a tremendous programme, actually. And that was the beaver episode as well. But seriously, though, Countryfile, it's not real. It doesn't really represent Scottish farming that well. It's all these folk that have made a fortune in the city in London and now have 30 acres and a house in Suffolk. And they were like, we've been very stressed with the lambing. It's been, Henry has been round a twist. He's just been beside himself, to be honest with you. But we're halfway there now. We just have 4 to do. You know, I mean, you wouldn't get Matt Baker coming up to Fife in the middle of harvest time, especially like the harvest we've had this year, would you? You know, well, hello there, welcome to Countryfile. I'm in Kennaway this week. I'm in to see Doogie. Doogie, how's the harvest going? To be honest, Matthew, it's been fucking awful. I don't know what the weather's been like with you in London, Matt, but see here in Fife, it's been really localised. We was combining yesterday at Pitt and Weem, and it was coming off at 16.5%. And Bobby was doing the road bailing in Kennaway, and the roads were washed away. I tell you something else, Matt, I had a bad go last week. I was round the yows in the morning, checking the sheep with the JCB in the grain bucket. Here's a dead yow in the corner of the field, eh? So I just put the yow in the grain bucket and went away home. And by that time, it's peacetime. And Margaret shouts, are you coming in for a cup of tea and a bacon roll? And I says, aye, because to be honest, Matt, at peacetime, I quite like a cup of tea and a bacon roll. Anyway, I'm halfway through a chocolate digestive, and here's a lorry comes in for a load of barley. I'd forgotten about the yow, eh? It's all right, Matthew, I haven't had a phone call yet. Oh, you're good crack. But as I say, I wouldn't swap my farming for anything. I've loved it. I really love it, you know. But growing up in the farm, as I said, it prepares you for good hard work and things like that, you know. But for other things, for normal things, it doesn't prepare you, you know, for like trying to chat up girls and impress women. It doesn't, you know, because there was no sex education back in the 80s, you know. And I hated school, absolutely hated school. But I would just spend all my nights after school and my weekends helping my dad on the farm. That's all I wanted to do, you know. So, of course, you learn from your surroundings, don't you? And nature's all around in farming. So once the tatties were up, the first job we would do is put the tups out with the yows. Now, again, I have to explain for the non-farming folk, the tup is the male sheep, that's the ram. So we put one ram to 40 ewes, you see. So no one's telling me any different, all right? Okay, so for a lot of years, I thought 1 male to 40 females was a ratio for all species, including humans, you see. So fast forward a good few years, I'm 16 years old, I'm at a youth club disco in Blairgowrie. I've had 2 tins of lager top deck, I'm feeling about Gallus and cocksure myself, to be honest with you. I accidentally walk into a pub where there's a hen do, there's 35 middle-aged women all drunk in Prosecco in a circle on a dance floor, and I'm like, aye, this is doable. Hold my beer. So to know that the tups were working, physically working, what we would do, we'd stick a raddle, what's called a raddle in them. It's kind of like a harness there with a red waxy crayon. We'd stick it on the tup's chest there, so when it physically mounted the back of the yow, the waxy crayon would rub against the yow's bum and leave a red mark, you see. So we'd know that yow had been served and the tup was physically working. Very, very important. So we'd put 2 tups in every field, 1 tup with a blue mark, 1 tup with a red mark, and 80 yows. And after a few days of it all going well, there's all these yows going about with red and blue marks. But I always noticed there was always one scabby old yow with no teeth going about with a purple mark in her arse. You know. Sitting back by a Rylock fence there, there's the new £800 tup deed, you know. Bring me another tup. So again, I thought all this technology was what everyone used, you know. Now, so it took me a long time to get with a girl for the first time, you know, properly. And I know it's always a bit cringy talking about it in public, but it's funny. So, and it was in the romantic city of Aberdeen this happened, okay? So, and it was typical June weather for Aberdeen this particular night. I was pissing it down, you know. And I met this girl in a nightclub in Aberdeen, and we're in the taxi rank, and she asked me back to hers, okay? Now, she was a real classy girl, this lassie. She'd just been to Matalan that day and exchanged a £10 note for a brand new set of cheap jeans, of course, these blue jeans, you see. So by the time we got back to hers, with all the rain, well, the rain had been washing away the dye in their trousers, you see. So by the time we got back to hers and took her pants off, well, her arse was already blue. And I'm like, bugger me, somebody else has already been here tonight. And like, I didn't even go to Scouts or youth club or anything, but when you're 14 and a farmer's son, you get sent to Young Farmers, you know. It turned out to be the best thing I ever did in my life, going to Young Farmers, you know. And your first Young Farmers barn dance is a special time, you know. It's like a rite of passage for a farmer's son, you know. It's a big deal. You know, no one forgets their first young farmer. Actually, no one remembers their first Young Farmers dance. But it's a weird thing, because it's such a safe environment. But you see, when I was 14, if I said to my dad, that's wee Bobby for school, my best mate for school, wonder if I want to go down to Blair tonight, just kind of hang about the Well Meadow, just kind of cut about in the bush shelter and that, just muck about like, you know. He'd be like, no chance, no way. But see, on a Saturday night, if a 29-year-old sexually deprived bachelor male arrived into the courtyard of the farm with zooped-up Subaru and Impreza, with 90s dance going, uns, 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 space, we are the children of the night, giving it all that. With a crate of tenants in the back seat, asking my father if he could take me, a 14-year-old child, to a tatty shed somewhere in the middle of Fife, where there's a CD player in one corner and a 40-foot bar made of tatty boxes in the other corner. My dad would be like, aye, on you go, son. On you fucking go. On you go, son. Yeah. But it was a bloody great time, you know. But if there wasn't like a Young Farmers dance, we've just come to Perth for a big night out. Now, Perth, as you know, not much goes on in Perth, but when you live in Capeth, you know, it's like going to Vegas for the night, you know. Fucking Perth, yes. And trying to get a girl from the town back to the farm for a one-night stand was nigh impossible. You know, because it's like 60 quid in a taxi in 40 minutes. So she'd either sobered up or passed out at the time you got home, you know. Wake up, we're here now. You got £30 on you? And the next day, of course, you draw the curtains. It's like, oh my God, I need to get out here, Jim. When's the next bus? A week on Thursday. And, you know, you think farmers would be good in nightclubs, chatting up girls, you know, because we're used to chatting over loud machinery, you know, so I think we're used to the loud music, you know, but not in the Perthshire accent. It's not attractive, you know. I always wanted one of these accents. You know these kind of accents that men would just speak and women would quiver? You know, like a New York accent, for example. You know, I'd love to say, hey, Tootie, how you doing? You want to come back to my apartment for like a cup of coffee or something? Whereas I'm like, hey! Hey! Mitch! Hey! We buy Mitch! No, that ain't. Hey! Aye, you. Eyes on the prize. Hey! You want to come back to the mains of Bog side? You know, it's not appealing. And even if a girl did come back, I couldn't seduce her by subtly whispering into her ear, because my dad used to use a gas gun as an alarm clock, so I'm half deaf in this ear. I can't whisper, I shout, you know. I can't whisper at all. I think I'm whispering, but I just end up sounding like a train station announcer. I take your pants off, it's knickers to the floor, please, thank you. Although surprisingly, a couple...
目隠ししてる床先をべけてる鬼からまみかたい波もろくいさしいかいからまいやくりなりさがかりたれうこいさめりかちかまかく好きなりにうもでるSadyukan nanti Inai joku shaka gara sama ara Mega oku boku name kime ara Hina oko ira iku Ikikaksu Ora te kusa Kiso wa wa subete Ohiso Nikona Tuani de Yasasita Nami mi ma Osiraru ni ka karirai a Taniyate Taniyata Yureku hono Ekto Kayasita Yamene yo ame yo kimi a Ose uri kese Kusi yo Kanye o Kima a Kuta ete
Some girls loved it. They loved my accent. One girl one night's like, oh yes, speak Perthshire to me. Speak Perthshire to me. And I'm like, who are your son boy? You're some fucking boy. You're son boy. Like. But, you know, I wasn't a complete loser. I did have some lovely girlfriends. You know, the first love broke my heart. She had one of these gender-neutral names for Perthshire. Malcolm, she was called. Fucking lovely lassie. And even like at the high school, because I went from a small primary school, about Glendelvin Primary, about 60 pupils, to Blairgowrie High School, you know, for first year. 1,100 pupils, and it blew my mind, you know, it blew my mind. And it was early 90s. And all the hip and trendy cool kids I was trying to be friends with were in Nirvana, this band, Nirvana, biggest band in the world at the time, you know. And of course, I'd never heard of Nirvana, being a chuchter, you know. I was more into Robbie Shepherd, you know. Love Robbie Shepherd, you know. But Nirvana's lead singer, this chap called Kurt Cobain, tragically died. You know, dropped down indeed, Douglas Bray job, you know. And the next day, you could have heard a pin drop. Honestly, it was like a morgue at the school. It was like a wake. And I'm like, what's going on today? And they're like, Jim, Kurt Cobain's just died. I'm like, oh yeah, bastard. What year was he in? But luckily, when I was 17, my life changed for the better. I got sent away to the Agricultural College at Aberdeen, a fine educational establishment called Crabeston. It was a great place, you know. I went there a boy and came back a loon. It was absolutely brilliant. And it was a brilliant time because we were out in the lash all the time, you know, out in the lash. And we were all dressed the same. So it's like, you know, when you join the army, day one, you get the black boots, the camouflage gear, the gun, the beret, and the head shaved, all ready to go. You know, you go to Agricultural College, day one, brown boots, blue jeans, and a red check shirt. You know, so we just be at the bar, 5 deep, 10 along. Just like a big tartan blanket, you know. And everyone was massive. There was 2 brothers from Inverness that were that big, they were classed as Monroes. You know, just huge buggers, you know. And we'd be out in the lash every night. But we'd meet these normal students. You know, these ones that went out every 5 weeks on a tenner. You know, these kind of folk that studying psychology at the University of Aberdeen, you know, and they would come up to us sometimes in the back bar in Amadeus, you know, and they'd be like, oh my God, we're having such a great time tonight. We really are, we're going mental. We're mental, we are tonight. We've just finished a bottle of Lambrini in the halls, and we're just here now having a few cheeky vimtos. And Taro's already kissed the guy. What are you guys here? Why are you and your friends all here tonight? It's a bloody Tuesday. And there was some real characters. This is a rugby club thing. There's always a guy, isn't there, getting naked after about 5 or 10 pints. Hey, let's get naked, you know, running down Union Street, bollock naked in January. And I don't know why, because he didn't have much to show, you know. I mean, he was always getting his willy out. It wasn't impressive. It wasn't like a long willy. You know, it wasn't a long willy. I mean, it was girthy. I'll give him that. It was girthy, you know. I mean, the best way to describe it was like a beef olive. This thing. Beef olive. I don't know why I'm doing that. My hand was never near the bloody thing. Anyway, so 2 great things happened to me going to Aberdeen. It was really fantastic. One, I got a degree in agriculture. And 2, there was this one weekend when my sister came up to visit me, you know, because I was seeing her at the time. And so it was a crowd splitter, that one, you know. I'm only joking, by the way. It's just comedy. It's just a one-night stand, for God's sake. And she met this guy across the hall from me, and they fell in love. And this guy's from Fraserburgh, you know. Is there any Brochers in? Any folk from the North East in? Aye. Bro, 1, that'll do. And they got married. And he's a great guy. They've been married 15 years now. But still, at this day, I can't understand a bloody word the guy says, you know. Even at the wedding service, when the minister says, do you take this woman to be your lawful wedded wife, he just went, oh, aye. And the thing is, that they're a small farm up there, but they had to diversify up there like a lot of the small farmers. And Ross actually worked offshore for a few years as well, just to bring in extra money. My sister said he was terrible in bed. You know, it was 3 minutes on, 3 minutes off, 3 minutes on, 3 minutes off. But I met his family once at a party, and as I said, they had, as well as having the farm, they had a cement mixer and a couple of Polish workers and a transit van, and said they were in civil construction. And they would do any job, anything, you know. And I think he would exaggerate a bit. And he had also one of these kind of classic burrs. You know, he couldn't pronounce his R's very well. And he says, aye, Jim, aye, like, Ken, we'll do anything like Ken for a pound or 2, like you can. We went down to London. We went down to London 15 years ago. We dug the swimming pool out for the Olympic Games. Aye, it was again, and it was a hurrah size of pool, as you can. So it was actually us and a guy from Inverurie. Now, we were a pound a ton cheaper for every ton of earth we took out the ground and the guy from Inverurie. So we did the deep end and he did the shallow end, see? And we also do a bit of work for the council in the winter time, gritting the roads and clearing the roads with snow and all that. And we've actually just been awarded a big contract for the LGBT community. That's Lower Grampian and Braes of Tayside. I tell you something, Jim, I had a bad go last week. I nearly lost a coo there. I was feeding Brock tatties to the coos, and this coo swallowed a tatty hail, okay, and she started, the tatty was lodged in her throat, okay, and she started getting bigger and bigger and bigger and frothing at the mouth, and the vet was never coming, and never coming. And I thought, God, Jim, I'm going to have to get this coo in the crush and stab her myself, you see. So I got her into the crate, and I'm getting the penknife out. And the thing is, Jim, if you stab the coo on the wrong side, you'll hit a vital organ, you can, and kill the coo stone dead like. Aye, Douglas Bray job like you can. But if you hit her on the right side, you'll hit the air pocket and let the air out and you save the coo's life, you can, which is fine. But I could never fucking mind which side of the coo you had to stab her on, like. And my father, I said, it's the same side as we drive on the main road, like, you can, which is fine. But this was a Charlie cow imported from France, so fuck those. What the crack was. So all the time I'm meeting these characters, you see, to build up my comedy, and I came home from Aberdeen with a degree and farmed in the family farm and went on for a lot of years, but still never finding a wife or anything like that, because you say, join Young Farmers and find a wife. Well, I had to get my money back when I was 30, you know, because none of that happened, you know. So a lot of barren years, and that's why I started to write comedy and things like that, and by this time I'm mid-30s. But then, as I say, the internet came into the glen, you know, and it saved me big time, you know, because you could find so much on the internet, you really could. And I actually ended up finding a lassie on the internet, you know, a proper, real lassie, you know, a lassie from Inverness, actually, Morag, her name is, from Inverness. And I met her on a dating website called highlandfling.com. which I would highly recommend, next day delivery. They're absolutely brilliant, you know. And she's the first real proper girlfriend, you know, it's arrived without a foot pump and a puncture repair kit, you know, it's brilliant, you know. But before I hit highlandfling.com, and I was on a whole range of dodgy dating websites, you know, because you type in Class Combine, you're only 10 clicks away from watching porn, aren't you? You know, it leads on, doesn't it? And I said, being a bit naive, I'll believe anything that's on a computer screen. So I'm basically watching soft porn in the farmhouse. And I've got to reiterate what it's like where I come from again, ladies and gentlemen. Many of you know it, but there only is about 8 people live in a 15-mile radius of the farm, okay? And I know them all. I've known them all my life, and they're all called like Betty and Sheila. But when I'm watching this porn, this picture would sometimes appear in the corner of the screen of a half-naked older woman, and it's informing me that Shanice is actually only 1.2 miles away. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing in my tatty field, you silly woman? But anyway, so once I connected with Morag on the internet, and after about 3 months of pestering her, she finally agreed to a date with me, you know. And but it was Inverness is 2 hours away. I didn't want to act too keen. I couldn't go to Inverness just for a date, because, you know, I'm a cool guy. I couldn't act too keen. But luckily it was September, so it was the same time as the Lairg sheep sale. And all got up to Lairg up in the north of Scotland there to buy replacement ewes. We'd go up every year with my father, you know, because the ewes up there, they're winter hardy, very fertile, but a bugger for getting stuck in their back. But anyway, that's by the by. So after the sale, I got the float to drop me off in Inverness, and I had a date with Morag, and that all went great, and that was 3 years ago. And actually last summer, she moved in with me into the farmhouse, you know. And Morag, she's changed my life, because anyone that knew me PM, you know, pre-Morag, you know, I was feral. You know, I was feral. I was just living in a ditch eating berries. You know, I was like that guy. You know that Darwin poster where there's the 5 stages of the evolution of man. You know, I was the dude at the back. You know. But there is a kind of negative living with Morag, because she watches all that stuff on telly about The Only Way is Essex and Made in Chelsea and The Real Housewives of Orange County, all that guff. But when she's back home, backstabbing and bitching and gossiping with all her pals in Inverness, over a Costa coffee, I thought, what a great reality show that would be. The Second Housewives of Dingwall. Today, Sandra's on the number 27 bus to go away into Marky's in Inverness to get a new set of knickers for tonight's Tupperware party. Meanwhile, our brother Roddy's just written off his Range Rover at the Regmore roundabout while trying to tune in Run Rig on a radio. So he's had to go up to Big Mad Mitch's Motors at Minlochy for a brand new set of rubber bumpers right enough. That'd be a great show, wouldn't it be a great show? But anyway, so it's all going great with Morag, you know, and I'll keep you posted how it all goes. It's just, she's a lovely lassie, you know, and I love her a bit. It's going great. And she's like all Highland women, you know, she's winter hardy, very fertile, but I bug her for getting stuck in their back. But anyway, that's by the by. But so she keeps them in the straight and narrow, you see, because it means at night I don't have to really watch soft porn or that anymore, or even go up with the channel. Because you know, these days, you know, especially at 1 in the morning when I used to come in off the combine, I was a bachelor, you'd crank up the channels. You know, the bottom 40 channels, 1 in the morning, there's no lot going on, so you'd go higher and higher and higher, and it all got a bit more exotic, you see. And I stopped all that now, because we got into bother one night. It was when Willie from Bank Foot was helping me calve a cow. Mind Willie was looking for the tyres. Well, he was up one night helping me calve a cow, you see. And 1:30 in the morning, and this cow's not making much of it, and she was just needing an extra half hour, you know, before we really got the calving jack on her, you see. And he says, right, come on, Willie, get into the house and we'll have a cup of tea. So I'm boiling the kettle, and Willie just sits down on the sofa, you see, gets the bloody remote fired up, gets the telly on, he's ranking up the channels, you know. But again, I'm not really taking much notice, you see. And then as I'm pouring the hot water into the teapot there and getting the biscuits laid out, Willie asked to borrow the phone, you see. And I'm thinking nothing of it, because he's got a very elderly mother who he likes the phone now again until he's okay, that he's going to be home late. And before I knew it, there's the volume of the telly getting ramped up, and all I could hear was, well, hello, you're through to Sexy Sandra and Sultry Susan. We're down in Manchester. I believe now we're going up to Scotland, to Perthshire, I believe, to speak to a local farmer, a hunky farmer called Willie. Willie, you naughty boy, what would you like to know? You can ask me anything you want, you naughty, naughty boy. And all I heard was him going, aye, I was just wondering, you didn't come here as a set of 16.9s, do you? So I'm going to keep going at my comedy, because I need the money, and I'm going to keep going at my farming for tax purposes. So, but keeping writing comedy is very important. And I wouldn't ever swap my farming for anything. I really wouldn't. And there's a lot of great days in farming. There's a lot of bad days too. And it's the bad days that actually inspire me to write comedy, you know. And see, when you're lambing, like 10 days into the lambing, any shepherds here will know you're into the eye of the storm, and it's all going belly up, and it's 2:30 in the morning, you haven't slept properly for 36 hours, you know, and you think, God, there must be a better way to make a pound or two than this, you know. I think, thank God that human women can't only give birth in the month of April. Can you imagine the logistics of that? You know, for example, in the home county of Perthshire here, down at the North Inch in Perth, about 10th of March, there's all these husbands just start dropping off wives. There's about 300-400 women pregnant, just kind of waddling about, you know, licking Pringles, you know. Meanwhile, the doctor and the midwife up at the maternity unit of PRI, they've done nothing for 11 months of the year, and all of a sudden, Judith Ralston says, here's the beast from the east coming in, and they're going nuts. And so they spend the whole day getting the beds ready, beds out, baler twine everywhere, get some pallets in the corner, because you really can't have too many pallets. There's the old midwife with some Jay's fluid and a watering can, dousing the was, getting up the was there. And then just before darkness, about 5 o'clock at night, the doctor heads down to the North Inch, where there's about 600 pregnant women, and he's down with a quad bike and turns up and leads up the old high street, enticing them up 2 by 2, waving a 25-kilo bag of Maltesers, going, come on! Come on! Come here! Fire! Mitch! Mitch! Meanwhile, there's the old midwife at the back with the JCB and the grain bucket. Picking up the old stragglers. You know, the ones that really shouldn't be pregnant. But there was a hen out of Magaluf and a bouncer jumped the fence. I'll leave you with that image. You've been bloody brilliant. Thank you, Perth. Thank you very much.